Give us just a second, guys. Jamie's connecting with us from New Zealand.
Hello,
Hey,
hello.
how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. How's the weather there?
It's actually about to rain this afternoon. Whenever that happened, the wind picks up like crazy. So we're about to
Okay.
blow away.
I love it.
How are things? How
Where
are things there?
they're good. Yeah, the weather's great here. It's getting a little bit hot as usual, but it's been really nice around here lately, so that's good.
Nice, nice.
So, everybody, we're here with Jamie Morrison. We're super excited to have you on today and can't wait to kind of get going with some of our questions. If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them down in the chat down here and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So, Jamie, tell us how your volleyball, like how you got into volleyball, about you playing volleyball, how all that
Yeah,
started.
yeah. My playing career was really, really short, actually. At least,
Okay.
I mean, I've played my entire life now, but
Mhm.
from an organized standpoint, I started late. I was a basketball player and got pulled into volleyball in I think my sophomore year, maybe even my junior year of high school, and I fell in love with the sport, and I was the kid that was at the gym practicing a jump serve by myself for an hour, and just finding ways to get in every single day as much as I could. So I had a decent high school career. We won our league, and we're supposed to go pretty far in CIF, and some players got suspended for some things, so we didn't. But and then I went to school at UC Santa Barbara, and I was a freshman. And some of you know me, and it's good to see everyone, by the way. I'm happy to be back, even if it's digitally. And I was 6'2" and a middle blocker, and those things don't mix on the men's side. So I got cut my freshman year from UCSB, and it was horrible at the time, but
Wow.
it kind of set me up for coaching, which was awesome in a way. So um, yeah, I fell in love with sports, got my playing career cut short, but it ended up having me be where I am today.
So you said that kind of led you into coaching. Go more into that. What was that like?
Yeah, so I think you have people in your life that really influence who you are, and the kind of like, I don't know, you have these like intersections in life where you can make a decision and you look back at them 20 years later and you're like, man, if I would have made that decision differently, or if that person wasn't in my life, I would be in a completely different place. And I kind of have two people, and just Kathy Gregory, who was the head coach at UCSB at the time on the women's side, and then Liz Town Gilbert, who maybe had the largest influence in my life, kind of took me under her wing. And I didn't know a thing about statistics at the time, and they were teaching me how to do a 3-point passing scale. So, like,
Yeah.
but after I got cut, the women's team was looking for some guys to come in and be practice players that spring. And like I said, I fell in love with the sport. So I was like, well, I got a chance to go play volleyball. It's not where I wanted to be, but let's go do
Yeah.
this. So I went and did it and kind of poured everything I had into that. And then that next year, they offered to have me be the volunteer. So I actually started college at 17. So at 18 years old, I was a volunteer assistant on, at the time, one of the top 10 teams in the world, in the country. Um, so like I said, like getting cut sucked at the time, but and it hurt. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for that. So kind of took that turn, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So you said you're a practice player. Lots
Yep.
of programs now have practice players. What was that like? What mindset did you have kind of going into that? And once you were playing as a volunteer assistant, what was that like playing with the
Yeah.
girls?
I mean, for those of you guys that are here, you guys don't know Kathy Gregory, but she was one of the toughest coaches out there. And if you want to look some stuff up, just some stories of her playing on the beach, she would win matches just by talking through the net. But she was a tough woman, and she was tough on the volunteer assistants too, and the practice players. But my favorite story that I like to tell is like we were in there, and I was jump serving balls, and I mean I would get done with practice, I would be drenched in sweat just because they would use me up as much as they could. So I
Yeah.
had served like 200 jump serves, and I hadn't missed one yet. And like I'm on 199, number 200 I miss, and all of a sudden I hear Kathy or Costas screaming at me like, "Damn it, Jimmy! What are you doing?" And
How
like
did
it
you
was, yeah.
miss?
So but it was awesome. Like I said, I didn't know nothing about coaching volleyball at the time, and both Kathy and Liz just took me under their wings and were honestly like teaching me. I mean, we'll get to where I ended up going, but teaching me how to keep statistics on volleyball. And they handed me a laptop and told me to learn data volley at one point, and So it was just this crash course at 18 years old in coaching volleyball, and it was awesome.
Cool. So, what kind of moving into that, what do you feel like your favorite technical part of volleyball is to coach?
Yeah, so I was a middle growing up, and when I started in college, and then I actually played around with playing at a JC for a little bit, and I was playing outside a little bit there. But always loved as a middle, like the cat and mouse game between setter and middle.
Yeah.
So it started off as a love for that, and then I'm also big on trying to fill my holes, so I know where I'm not great at coaching. So I spent about a year and a half kind of diving into setting, just because it was one of those things I had never really done. So I dove into the technique wise, and then also the other side of it, like the cat and mouse game between setter and middle blocker. And I got pretty good at coaching setting, and I kind of fell in love with that phase of the game and running an offense and doing those things. So I think coaching setters and kind of how the whole offense fits together is probably kind of where I love to be the most.
Yeah. So, how do stats kind of integrate into that? You said you've done a lot with data volley. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
it's really taken off in your mind. Stats are what you base things off of. And so, how do you integrate that in what you're doing?
Yeah, I think the setting thing, one of the things that's interesting is it's like this crazy blend between kind of art and science. Like you want to know maybe who their worst blocker is. You want to know that statistically, and you want to say, hey, this person's a target, or hey, like this play is really going to work against this team. And some of that's statistics, some of that's to your eye, but then you get into the game and it's, hey, your outside hitter is really struggling. And hey, here's the situation that's going to be really difficult. Maybe I need to stay away from her in here. Or maybe the opposite. Hey, this person's really struggling and I want to find this great situation to go get them a good set, a one-on-one where they can go crush it and then get in their face and be like, hey, that's what I'm talking about. It's you. So I think I love setting because it's this cool mix of like, you have to know more about your team as a setter than anybody else. Just because you have to know the situations, you have to know what's going on the other side of the net, you have to know your team in terms of, hey, this person's really going to perform well in this situation. I have to know what buttons I can push with each player. So it's this perfect mix of kind of art and science. And I think it's one of the reasons why I kind of fell in love with it too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, we have a question. What is the best way to be
Yeah,
recognized as a great libero or libero? My bad.
you're good. International Libero, US Libero. Yeah, I think, and you'll talk to any college coach and they'll talk about this. I think it's the hardest position to recruit. And the reason is normally you're the best passer on the team, and no one's serving you. Defense is kind of hard to go and look and watch a set because you might dig 4 or 5 balls. So um, I think if I were to say anything to stand out, one, if you want to do it internationally, you have to be a good receiver. And I think it changes a little bit as you go up the ranks. As you're kind of playing in 12s, it's all about defense and a little bit of reception. As you get higher, that reception piece picks up. As you get into college, it's probably even with defense and passing. And then if you want to go on beyond that, it's reception. So fall in love with that. And I think if you want to stand out, one of the things that I'm looking for is somebody that competes their butt off. So you're going to go after every single ball. There's never a time where you're sitting there just looking and seeing what's going on. So you're going to fight for every single ball. And then I think the other thing that I look for personally, and I think everyone's different in this, but I'm really big on my teams of my setter being the king of our offense or the queen of our offense, our middle being the queen of our block, and then our libero being the queen of our defense and our service. And I just want to see someone that's taking charge of that, that's able to kind of say, hey, like you need to be here, or is going to like, I don't know, get on a teammate a little bit if they don't go after a ball. But I think that one's important to me. So I think those two things. I think as you get higher in level, reception's important, defensive effort, and just that competitive drive that I'm going to go for everything. And then kind of being the queen of the court, or at least the back court. Like here's what's going on, and taking control of your teammates and making everyone better. I think it's a really important one.
For sure. You said that reception becomes super important at the national level. Why just serving is that much better?
Yeah, the serving gets a lot better. One, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it. I think another thing that people don't realize is the ball changes, and the Mikasa ball that we play with is very, very difficult to pass. They decided to make it aerodynamically like an anomaly. Like it can be going this way and then go this way and then come back this way and then drop. So you have to be really, really good at being able to make angles in some different places. And I don't know, you were a Libro. Tell me about your story. Was it more important as you got better, or
Yeah, I think we did an international trip, and serve receive was my thing, and it was not my thing on that international trip because
yeah,
the serving was that much better. So,
yeah.
but then when I came back, it wasn't hard at all because the serving wasn't as
Yeah,
great.
exactly. So I mean, I'm
Yeah.
guessing the difficulty becomes part of it. It just you stand out more if you're bad. But I also think just the game gets the margins become a lot thinner as you get better. So your
Mm-hmm.
ability to just pass set, get a kill, changes. So like it gets closer to men's volleyball, whereas in women's volleyball, everyone's like,
Yeah.
I almost feel like to some extent psychologically, like we say the rally should be long, it shouldn't be long. If we're a really, really good volleyball team, it should be
Mm-hmm.
pass set kill. And in order to do that, you have to have the pass. And it's not as important at the younger levels because the arms aren't as good and people aren't putting a ball right away. But as you go up that level, your ability to pass, stay in system, and just run your offense and side out, side out, side out, side out, and then get that one break point, that's what wins national championships in college volleyball, and that's what wins gold medals at the Olympics.
Definitely. So, kind of going into the national level, you went to three Olympics, starting with Beijing in 2008. Kind of what differed between each Olympics? What was your role? What did you learn from that?
Yeah, um, they were all different, and I think in I'll go this way. I'll start with role. My role changed over the 12 years, so which is crazy to say that I was there for 12 years. But when I first started, like I said, I was at UC Santa Barbara, and they literally just handed me a laptop, and they said it has data volley on it, learn it. And they failed to tell me that there were other people that knew the program that could teach me. It was just like figure this
They're
out,
just
and
like,
failed to
learn.
tell me that there was an instruction manual. So I was just stumbling through this thing, and because of that, like it was kind of a new program and people didn't know what it could do, but because no one told me there were limits to it or taught me how to do it, like I was figuring things out that no one else could do just because I was stumbling onto them. Because again, like there wasn't an instruction, there wasn't a box there of this is what you have to do. It was just, hey, here's this computer, figure it out. So I got to be really, really good at data volley, and that's what got me in the door with the national team. So when I first got there, my main role was analyzing our team through statistics and video, and then taking care of all of our scouting reports. And then so it was really, I think at that time I watched more video on opponents and ourselves than anybody in the world, which I hated at the time. It was grueling. You were sitting in there. I mean, breaking down a match took 2 hours where the coaches were analyzing it. It took 30 minutes. So I was doing the grunt work of watching every single play so they could just watch the plays that they needed to. And then I think people have this visual that playing professionally or playing for the national team is this glamorous thing. And you have this beautiful locker room. There's 25 people on staff, and it's anything but that. I mean, you talk to our players; they have a locker room with two showers. It might have improved since I was there, um, but yeah. So it's not glamorous. There's not a lot going on with staff. So I was in charge of taking care of everything. So at one point we moved the team from Colorado Springs to Anaheim, and I was paying the bills. I was putting together desks and furnishing our
Wow.
office. So it was everything that was going on, and like I had to go organize our equipment room, and I absolutely hated that. I remember at one point I almost punched a hole through the wall because I was so frustrated. So it was everything, and then I went on to 2012 quad. So starting in 2009, I kind of had this blended role where I was training other people how to do data volley for us, and then I was going off and coaching, and then I was sitting on the end line kind of as a consultant coach back there, so I wasn't on the bench. And then the third Olympics, I was the first assistant for the team, and on the bench during the Olympics. So it kind of changed as time went on, and I got better is the other thing. So I got rewarded for that. Um, and then the Olympics were all different, and like I remember my first one pretty vividly. I remember showing up at the Olympic Village and like the Olympic rings were on our doorknob, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool!" And like it was just I don't know. I remember that excitement, like I don't know, a 12-year-old kid opening up a present. It was just like it was so special. And then as time went on, and actually as the tournament went on, you got into it, and it just became like at first the first match you're like, "Oh my God, this is crazy! We're at the Olympics." And then it slowly became another volleyball tournament. And
Yeah.
I think as I went on in the Olympics, it became another volleyball tournament. And it was one of the lessons, and when I talk about lessons that I learned in the three, like one of the lessons that I learned was just like the importance of putting yourself in like really stressful, tough situations and how that gets you used to being in stressful, tough situations because they just become normal vol. I mean, we always talk about every point's the same, and that they're not the same unless you put yourself in those really tough points, and then they become the same. So maybe it changed my view on stressful situations away from being, hey, like, oh my God, this is something to like, this is something that I have to go through in order to be good in these situations later. So that's one of the things I learned throughout the Olympics is for me, they changed from, oh my God, 12-year-old excited to this is another match, it's business time. And there's a piece of me that didn't like that because I loved how special the Olympics were the first time. But
Yeah.
in terms of performing, it was probably better by the third time I got there. It was all right. It's time to go to work now. So, but the three were different. If you look at 2008, I was with the men's team, and then the next two Olympics, I was with the women's team. And our first Olympics, like we had just come in from winning the competition before that World League, but we really hadn't won anything up to that point. Our team was kind of doing this, this, this. And we came into the Olympics, and it was like a four-way race for the gold medal, in my opinion. And I was like, it's a 25% chance that everyone could be there. And we ended up winning. I don't think people realize this when you like say you won a gold medal. We ended up winning the quarterfinal 15-13 or 15-12, I think, in the fifth set. We ended up winning the semifinal 15-13 in the fifth set. And we only won it by blocking a guy that literally was hitting 700 in the match. And we had blocked 0 times. And like we
Wow.
blocked him, we're like, oh my God, we got him. And then we're like, oh my God, we won.
We won.
But we talk all the time. Like the margins between not medaling at that Olympics and winning a gold medal were really, really thin. And that's one of the other lessons I'll talk about at the end. But we won a gold medal, and it was this crazy thing. And I don't know. Don't think the kids were probably paying attention to the Olympics back then. But our head coach, his father-in-law and mother-in-law got stabbed in a senseless act of violence, and
Wow.
his father-in-law died. So like at the end of that Olympics, it was just like these crazy emotions of this high, and then we've been trying to separate everything that happened and this low. That kind of I don't know. That was an emotional wreck for about a week after that one. So, um, and then I think another funny story. It's actually funny. They replayed the match on NBC Sports.
Okay.
I think like a week ago, and we all were watching, and we had a text group with everyone that was a part of that. And it was really cool to like reconnect with the guys and talk about stuff going on. But one of the things that also got up, and I think people don't realize, is the volleyball tournament is the longest lasting tournament of the Olympics. I remember talking to a fencer there, and she was asking me, so like, when does your tournament start? When does it end? And I explained, and I was like, what about you? And she's like, well, I fight tomorrow, and if I win, I go after that. I'm like, and if you lose? She's like, it's done. And I'm like, you can train for 4 years, come to the Olympics, have one bad bout, and be done. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like I was thinking we were under pressure. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like imagine that 4 years of work for 20 minutes. And it was crazy, but our tournament's so long, and we got done. We won a gold medal, and we're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like literally, it was like a bus to closing ceremonies because we were like the third to last event. And then like some guys went here, some guys went there, and then the next morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, we woke up and we flew back home, and then everyone went to professional teams. And we never really had a chance to truly celebrate
Yeah.
what we did, and that's crazy. So that was the first one. The second one was in London, and it was a completely different situation. Like that team had won not every major competition, but like it was like we were the favorite, and then there were some other teams. And there's no doubt in my mind that we put together the best volleyball team in terms of being able to play volleyball in the world at that time, and I'm proud of that. But we came in, and we were getting to the last match of pool play, and Brazil had a bad Olympics. And if we would have lost, this is actually one of the more proud decisions I've made as a volleyball coach. If we would have lost that last match on purpose, Brazil would have been out. And they were one of our best competitions in that tournament, but we literally talked about it for about 30 seconds, and we're like, that's not us. We're going to play the game, be true to it, and whatever happens, happens. And we decided, and I think we went out, and I think it was Turkey we were playing. We beat Turkey in 3 or 4, and Brazil was allowed in. And then they had nothing to lose at that point, and they went on this run. And we won the first set against Brazil in the gold medal match. I think it was 25-12. And just a lesson for everyone. Just again, you get into that situation, you dominate somebody, the other team, it's like, nothing to lose.
Yep.
And you just can't let off. And all of a sudden, they kind of lit on fire, and they won the next 3 sets, and we lost the gold medal match. And we were the best team, and that hurt. And afterwards, I'm proud of the fact, and you have to look at this as a team, because if you get to those situations, it's a flip of a coin of who wins and loses. Especially at that level, the margins are so thin. So I was proud of the fact that we put together the best volleyball team in the world. And unfortunately, on that day, Brazil was better, and hats off to them. And they have a gold medal, and we have a silver, but still proud of that. And then the third Olympics, we went in, and I think we were probably the favorites. It was kind of, again, a little bit of a mix of who would win. And we lost in the semifinal against Serbia 15-12. And again, margins are thin. And we lost in that match. And I remember specifically sitting on the bench and just, I was almost like in shock. Like, it was like emotionless. I was just sitting there and I was shaking my head. And I remember vividly that. And I remember vividly we had a team meeting when we went back to where we were staying, and we were in our little dining area. And I remember we were talking about, all right, what does this next match mean? And the girls and us were just talking about, like, we were so proud of the team that we were, that quad, and the culture that we had, and the way that everyone cared about each other. And we just said, this next match is our last chance to be together. We want to enjoy that, and we want to make sure that the world gets to see who we are. And those were the two most important things. It wasn't about winning the bronze medal. It wasn't, I mean, it was about rebounding a little bit from what happened. But I'm getting chills talking about it, because like I just remember it being this moment where I was like, this is awesome. The group of people that I get to go to battle with right now. But it was that match was just about, hey, let's enjoy who we are, and this last opportunity that we ever get to compete with each other. And then secondly, let's make sure the world is watching us and knows exactly who we are, and make sure that shines through on the court. And we went out and we beat the Netherlands, who I ended up taking over. So it was a little bit bittersweet 6 months later, but we beat them and won a bronze medal. And I'm proud of that group just because of the group that they were and the people that were a part of it. And and so each one is special for a different reason. But I kind of touched on lessons, and I wrote some of them down just because you were asking the question earlier. Just the lessons that I learned, just the power of a group headed in the same direction. And I think especially with that first Olympics, I remember the meeting we had where we sat down and we put together a mission statement of, this is what we're going to be about. This is what we're going to hold ourselves accountable for. And those guys came in every single day working towards that. And I think you guys have practices, and you have practices where they're good and they're bad and this and that. And when you get to the national team, I remember like that last quad with the women's team, I think in 4 years we had 5 bad practices, where we got done and we were like, hey, that wasn't good enough. Either as a coach or the players would say it themselves, but it happened very rarely. Normally it was, we're coming in, we're taking care of this, we're going to get better at this, this, and this. And when we get done at the end, we'd be like, yeah, we did those things. And I think that's what it takes to be the best, is coming in every single day. But it's the players and the staff and everyone being on the same page of, hey, this is the most important thing in my life. And I think it's the other thing people don't give these athletes credit for. This is their life. They get done with the national team, they go play professionally, and like they put everything else on hold for the most part. Like, some people have relationships, but it's difficult to find someone that's willing to travel the world with you and do those things. So like I just think the power of everyone heading in the same direction, and then just, and you can attest to this playing at a high level, like the margins get thinner and thinner and thinner the higher that you go, and the little mistakes that, I don't know, you might be able to get away with at 14s, you can't get away with at 18. And the little mistakes that you get away with at 18s, you can't get away with in college. And the little mistakes that you make in college, you can't get away with internationally. And I just think as you go up, those things become more and more important. And I remember this really like vividly from Hugh McCutcheon. We sat down and talked to the team and said, you can learn in 2 ways. You can learn through heartbreak or through trust. And what I mean by heartbreak is you can go out there, and if my connection sucks, I'm sorry, I'm in New Zealand. So, but you can go out and get crushed repeatedly and learn from making that mistake. And yeah, you go out there and it's like, all right, now I've learned. Like, I'm crying on the bench. Or you can trust the people that have been there before, whether it be your coach or a player that's been there before, and being like, hey, trust me, we need to work harder than this so that this doesn't happen. And I thought it was an important moment for that team of, hey, like, yeah, we can learn these things by just going out and learning it the hard way, or we can trust the people that have been there and done it, that the margins are thinner when we get there. So I thought that was an important lesson as we went on. And then the third one that I wrote down was just personally for me, and this is, I think, applies to everyone. It's just the things that you think are stupid and menial and small at the time, you're going to turn around later on and be like, man, that was important, because all of that video that I watched back on that first squad where I was like, man, this sucks. And like all of that made me understand these are the things that make a good receiver, or this is what generates power when you attack. Because I'd watched so much video of the best players in the world being, hey, those are the 5 best receivers. And these are all the things of this mental image I have in my head of what makes them good. And that time where I almost punched a hole in the wall because I was having to organize the equipment closet, I look back at it now as a head coach and I'm like, I understand what goes on in that equipment closet and how that stuff needs to be organized. And I'm able to delegate those things. So just all of the little things that you think are stupid at the time don't end up being stupid, but it's going to take you 10 years to figure out that they weren't stupid. So again, you can go trust or you can go heartbreak, and just understand that, hey, the things that you think are stupid now probably won't be 10 years from now.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like you kind of answered like what's different about the athletes that make it to, playing internationally and playing at that level. Is there anything else you would want to touch on in that area, or do you feel like you kind of covered
Yeah, yeah, I think it's an important one, actually. I mean, if anybody that's watching this ends up getting there, it's just, I think everyone that gets to the national team struggles with this. They have lived a lot of their life being more physical than everybody else they play with. And there's a physicality piece normally that comes with being a part of the national team. There's some genetics, some DNA, and there's some special exceptions that are just really, really special at something. So I don't think Courtney Thompson will be angry at me for saying she was short as a setter, and she was a good athlete, but she wasn't the best athlete in our gym. But she was the best leader I think I will ever have on any team. Maybe, I don't know, that I'll ever be a part of. And that made her special. So you have to be special physically or be really, really special in something. But everyone comes to the gym and they're normally like they've been the alpha for their entire career. Where like, hey, I can just, if I'm really feeling it, I can just go up and go over the top of these people as a hitter. But all of a sudden, they're around everyone else that's just as physical. And everyone struggles with that. I remember having a conversation with an athlete once. It's like, I don't know how to be on the bench. What do I do? Just because her entire career, like she'd been the most physical person and been out there. So I think everyone struggles with that. So I think, I don't know, you asked these questions beforehand and I wrote some stuff down, but like, I think they kind of have like 4 things in them is one, they love volleyball a lot because it gets really, really difficult at times. And if you're not in love with it, you're just going to be like, I quit. So in order to stay around, you have to fall in love with the game. And then I think I came up with this term over the last few years, but you have to be anchored in who you are. So what I mean by that, when I watch the best players that end up making it through, they're not the people that are wishy-washy with who they are or how they feel. They're like, this is who I am as a volleyball player. This is who I am as a human being. They understand that. They can express it with words or write it out, and they don't sway from that. They stay true to it because, again, when things get hard, people are going to sway around a little bit. And then the other one is just, I think they compete harder than everyone else. And what I mean by that also is just like when things get difficult, they stay who they are. When the situation starts to pull them in a different direction, whether it be in a match or practice, like they're going to go out there and be like, no, I'm better than this. I'm going to go out here. And in practice, it's, hey, like everyone else is, I don't know, the same physicality than me. I'm still going to beat you. I think that's really important. And then the last one is, and this is really important, is just the people that make it in the national team are people that are learners. They're people that come in and are able to adjust, and they've been really good their entire life, but they're not good enough when they get to the national team. They're physical enough, but they have to hone their craft to the point where, again, those margins were this, now they're this. I have to be good enough to do it instead of 99 out of 100 times, 999,000 out of a million times. So that has to happen. And then this has just been expressed to me over the last year and a half in some different ways, and I just want to give people credit. But Bernie Holiday, who worked with Pittsburgh volleyball, worded it like this, but it was a white belt mentality with a black belt confidence. I want to come into the gym like I have a white belt on, like I'm humble enough to come in here and know that, hey, I need to get better. But when it comes to action time, like I have a black belt. I'm ready to go out there and kick your butt. And then to put it up in more fighter terms, I love this one. I was listening to an MMA fighter in a podcast, but he said his mentality in practice is come in and hurry up and fail. Like I want to get to the point where someone is beating my butt every single day so that way I'm on the edges of what I'm doing in practice so that I can push myself further. But then he gets into a match and all of a sudden his mentality flips. It's a switch that goes, hey, not today. Like you're not beating me today. I'm not getting my butt kicked. So I think that one's important. And then the third one that I use a lot is comes from USA Water Polo. Adam Krikorian's a good friend and a great coach. If anybody out there is a coach and listening, he's a great guy to go listen to. But he just tells his team they need to be humble enough to prepare. So he talks about this beforehand, just scouting whoever it is. We're going to come in here and we're going to prepare, but confident enough to compete. So, hey, I'm confident enough in the work that I've put in to go out there and compete every single day. So I just think those three kind of people worded that in ways that I've kind of learned over the time. When I see these athletes that do it well, they're those things. They're confident enough to go out there and kick butt, but they're humble enough to know that, hey, I need to get into practice and get better.
Definitely. Yeah. Kind of something I thought of. You've coached obviously a lot of different places in the United States, but also in different countries. How do you feel like volleyball differs in different countries, and what's important, here that may not be important somewhere else?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think the game changes. I'll say that. I think there's different cultural like I'll put it this way: in the United States, like I'll use the like 1980 Miracle on Ice, 84, whatever that was, the Miracle on Ice. Like everyone was counting the USA out, and I guarantee you, in those guys' heads, they were probably like, "Hey, like odds are we're probably going to lose this match." Like I don't know, if we played these guys 100 times, 99 times we're probably going to lose. But the other side of their head, and this is I think where Americans are different and our culture is different, is they're like, hey, there's a 1% chance. Like, why isn't today our day? And like, I've been surprised. I don't feel like there's that feeling around the world necessarily of, hey, like today could be my day. I'm just going to go out here and give everything that I have to go do it. So I think if you go around the world, there's cultural differences out there, but volleyball is the same. So you have to coach athletes different. But yeah, I think volleyball is the same, and I think the biggest difference is as you go up in level. Again, the margins become thinner. The game changes a little bit just because the ball is coming at a harder velocity. But across the world, volleyball is volleyball. It's still three contacts. It's still whatever team works the hardest and that stays the closest. So
Definitely. So you've spoken at a ton of events all over the country on volleyball topics. What do you feel like is your best presentation that you've ever given, or your favorite presentation to give, and why?
I mean, when I came to Skyline,
Yes, that's
yeah,
our favorite.
I think I'll say this. Like, my favorite presentation I've given to coaches was actually not about volleyball. It was at the ABC convention. I just gave a presentation of like things I wish I would have known. And some of it was volleyball related in terms of find a mentor and talk to them often, but some of it was just how to manage your finances and I don't know, how to invest money and do these things that I wish I would have known at 20 and that I'm learning I learned at 35. So I think from a coaching standpoint, that was actually my favorite. And I don't think there's a specific one, but I like working with smaller groups of athletes. I think when you come in and do a giant clinic, it's fun because you get to, like, I don't know, have an impact on a bunch of kids, but you don't get to know very many people because you're spending 5-second snippets with a bunch of different people. So like I'll use, like I came to Skyline, we did a big clinic and it was cool, but I like some of the small group stuff that I did with a few of the athletes, just that, I don't know, I got to know them as human beings. And it's part of the reason why I coach is that connection that you get to have with other people. So I think the more that I do those, the smaller clinics with, I don't know, 12 athletes or 4 athletes or 5 athletes, those are the ones that stick out to me.
Yeah, and I think some of those bigger clinics too will really help with kind of coaching education as well. Like you're able to, impact a bunch of kids, but you're also coming in and like giving all these new ways of thinking and ideas for the coaches that are there helping you run it. So
yeah, and I'll say the same thing. I think I guess I'll change it to this. I think smaller groups is what I enjoy, because like I really enjoyed coming to Skyline and just working with each individual coach, and you really got to dive into topics because you could be a little bit more vulnerable with stuff because you're not talking to this huge group and having to share stuff with 12 people. It's, hey, like I struggled with this. Like, do you struggle with this? And so I think that's an important one too.
for sure. Yeah. So y'all are kind of stuck in New Zealand.
Yeah.
What have y'all been doing to stay active and all that good stuff during this time?
Yeah, I'm big on using, I don't know, I'm always big on taking the positive out of whatever's happening. So we were traveling around New Zealand and it was awesome. We were getting to see a bunch of different places, and they've done a really good job here of kind of, I don't know, locking everyone down to the point where you're not allowed to drive. It sucks because we're not allowed to go see what we want to see, but
Mhm.
it's also awesome because we're safe. But
Yeah.
so we've been really trying to take advantage of kind of being in one place and settling down. So we've gotten into a workout routine every single day, and I just set the goal of, hey, like I'm going to get into the best shape in the next month that I can. And so we've set the goal of running at least 1 mile every single day.
Well,
And one of the things that I found, and we've actually done it for I think 43 days or something like that now. Um, but yeah, one of the things that I found, and a mile is not that tough. I mean, I strained my calf at one point, so it was a 12-minute mile
oh
at one
boy.
point. But I think just setting a bare minimum of what you're going to do causes you to do more than you think you're going to do. So there's days where I'm like, man, like I really don't want to run this mile, and I'll get out there and I'll run the mile. And there's days where I'll be like, yep, I didn't want to run that mile. I'm going to stop now. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of days where I get down on the mile and I'm like, well, I could do 20-minute workout right now. And all of a sudden you're working out for 40 minutes. So
Yeah.
I think setting the bare minimum. So like we've been eating super healthy, doing that, and then just really exploring the area we're in. So we're thinking about writing a guidebook about how to enjoy Lake
Ooh.
Kickapoo. And yeah, so we know it pretty well. We've done the same hike about 3 or 4 times, and know the town pretty well. So, but it's been awesome. We love it here, and the view's amazing. We get to wake up to it every single day, and
Yeah.
we can't complain.
What time is it there right now?
It's probably about 10:45. I don't know exactly. 10:30.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Tomorrow though, but we're in the future. So
You are in the future.
yeah.
What's it look like?
Saturday is a little windy. Yeah, I wish I could give you some sports scores, but there's no sports going on. But yeah, no, the future's good.
So, what advice do you have for players right now, whether it's like things that they could physically do or even just like mental stuff to kind of
Yeah,
be able to find
yeah.
positive in this time?
Find a way to get ahead. We were actually watching a video yesterday by a guy named Jocko Willink, I believe it is. He's an ex-Navy SEAL, and the video is called "Good." And someone had sent it to me actually when I got let go from Holland. It just talks about, hey, you're in a tough situation, good. And like again, like I've always been like that. Like, hey, find the good in every single situation of what's going on. And I always talk to my teams just about I don't know difficulties, like losses you're going to learn from. And those suck because you're the one in it and you have to do something good in it. But I always talk about situations where like everyone's in something crappy.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you're in a gym and you're in a match and the lights go off. Good. Like that's awesome. Like if we can handle it better than them, we're going to get ahead.
Yeah.
And I think that learning piece is a competitive thing too. For me, at least with my teams, I compete about it. Like, hey, everyone in the world, if I'm coaching a national team, or everyone in the country, if I'm coaching a college team, or everyone in club volleyball, if you're coaching club volleyball, is going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do it faster than them. It's a competition thing. So all of a sudden right now, like I'm sitting in this situation, I was actually putting myself, if I was in a college coaching situation and this happened, I'd be like, good. Like I hope that everyone else is sitting on their butt at home, relaxing right now,
Mm-hmm.
and let's find a way to get better. So my message to everyone is find a way to get better. Mine right now is I'm taking a nutrition course through Precision Nutrition, and I'm trying to fill a hole that I don't have. So if you're a volleyball player out there and everyone else is sitting on their butt, getting lazy and getting fat, good. Find a way to go out there and get better, get
Yeah.
stronger, get mentally stronger, do meditation, do visualization, do something to get ahead of the other people that are sitting there doing nothing. So instead of sitting there and being like, oh my God, this situation sucks, I'm so bored, be sitting there being competitive and saying, good, everyone else is sitting down, I'm going to get better. Find a way.
Definitely. Yeah, that's awesome advice. I love that. Well, we don't have any more questions, so unless you have any last thoughts or anything.
I do not. Yeah, just, I don't know. I love what you guys are doing over at the club there. I think you guys do some amazing things. So keep doing
Well,
what you're
thank
doing.
you. Yeah,
Yeah, everyone stay safe.
you're always super amazing, always wanted to get in and talk to us, and we know we are very appreciative and we know our girls are too. So thanks so much for everything, Jamie.
Yep, stay safe, guys.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.